Okay, so the meeting called to order at 5 o'clock. Just wanted to make sure everybody saw the agenda, was comfortable with the agenda, didn't have anything they want to add or change.
No.
Hearing none, we'll adopt the agenda. A motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion.
Karen makes the motion. Go second.
Second.
Tim makes the second. All those in favor?
Oh,
Yes, we have an agenda for the evening.
do you have to say it by name for the?
Oh, that's right, we're on. Yeah. So Karen Fuchs?
Yes.
Roll call. Tim?
Yes.
Right. Karen Edwards?
Yes.
And Betty Cavaco?
Yes.
And Bill Cody, yes. Public comment? Public comment? Anybody online want to talk?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Hi, very quickly, Alton Arnold, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 17. I just want to give you a quick update on Article 16C. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion on this article. AD Makepeace came out, met with the residents recently, and they came out with Plan B, so to speak, if this article does not pass. They are proposing over 100.
Yes.
They are proposing over 100 apartments if this does not pass. This week, we've been inundated with emails from the Red Brook residents supporting this now, especially where they understand the subsidy. And obviously, we all know that the Finance Committee did a 180 on this article, understanding what this means. I know there are some folks are uncomfortable with the 08 agreement, and they're uncomfortable with a sort of a precedent this is setting. But as I've said multiple times, for the amount of subsidy we're getting, it's really a win-win situation. So I just wanted to update you, and I thank you for all your hard work. I've looked back at the 20 years of the 106 projects you've done for Plymouth. I know I'm new to Plymouth, but it's amazing what this committee has accomplished in 20 years. So congratulations on your good work for the community. Thank you.
Do we have any? Thank you, Mr. Donato. Is there any other public comment? Hearing none. The special town meeting articles 8A, 8B, 8C, I have them on the agenda so that we know where we are on the special. They've been presented to the Board of Selectmen, FinCom. They're going around to the caucuses. They're briefly touched on in reference just to the point that it's an example of previous actions of town meeting and our committee's commitment working with the Finance Department to reduce the borrowing authorization that was given to us. These special town meeting articles, all three of them are about reducing borrowing authorizations that was given to the committee in the town previously, but we haven't received our first invoices, or if we are getting invoices, we're going as pay as you go, moving money into those accounts. At some point, we would expect to do some short-term borrowing, and I've been explaining that to the caucuses, what our strategy is right now, what we might encounter in the past, how we manage a circumstance where we have some short-term borrowing, that becomes the priority to pay off, that rises to the top. Right now, we've been moving things into different accounts to cover this Pilgrim Hall, Stevensdale, and the Spire. Also, just put it in your calendars, April 14th, there's going to be an event at the Spire Theater. You're all invited. I'll send out the invitation, waiting for it to come in from GPAC. They're going to invite the community in to see the building for its unveiling. As you can see, the scaffolding is coming down, and they're going to have a whole day event where they have a concert, and in between the concerts, there's different explanations of how they got to where they are 10 years later. So there's a grand opening on the 14th of April, and you're all invited, and you'll get an invitation.
Nice.
And Stevensfield, as we all know, is kind of long. Did you want to say anything, Lynn, about how these specials articles are working? We're basically paying down authorization.
Yeah.
do you see a point where we might have to do some short-term borrowing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna be doing some short-term borrowing for Stevens Field and, Jenny Pond, actually, because David is starting, to do some design on that project, so,
Okay.
there'll be some,
Right.
but we're monitoring it and only doing what we absolutely have to.
Okay. So again, down here, we got Springtown meeting. The articles, I keep them on the agenda, so we just know where all these articles are. 16A being presented to the caucuses. It's been going pretty well. I mean, there's obviously a lot of debate at the caucuses about 16A. But Sue Giovanetti is doing her best. I've been going to caucuses, briefly introducing the article and letting Sue walk people through that.
How's it going for her?
I think it's going well. It's a 2/3 vote, so it's a challenge, but I think she's making progress. From what I'm seeing at these caucuses, she's making progress. I think there's going to be some opposition to it. Alan Zanotti, who's on the board of directors at the industrial park, has been going around to these caucuses and making his concerns known. They're legitimate concerns that we have to muster through. In terms of, I guess his greatest concern is that, this is a unique use of an industrial park as an educational center and sleeping quarters or residential quarters. He thinks it's not a good match for the park. There've been some concerns about the original acquisition cost compared to what it sold for a few years earlier. The price had gone up significantly in the resale. There was concerns about that. But Sue has brought in a board member who is familiar with real estate values and has been speaking to that at some of the caucuses, explaining how much the building was initially sold for in 21 and what they purchased it for in 2023. And there was a bump there in the real estate market, obviously. And the town currently has it assessed for $1,525,000. So,
May I ask, what is Alan Zanotti's reason? Does he have a business there?
well, he's on the board of directors at the industrial park. So the industrial park is he's on the board of directors.
Is he speaking for the board of directors?
He does identify himself as a board member, but he doesn't say he's speaking for anyone or anybody on the board.
Okay.
So, he's just voicing his concerns as a resident and a board member. It's a commercial property. We do speak directly to the town meeting members about the Dover Amendment, that the zoning allows for this activity. So that's clear. I have been very clear to people that the SHI, which is the subsidized housing inventory count, we're not getting a count on that. But I do point out that on 16B on 32 Court Street, we're only buying down 6 units in that complex, and we'll get credit for SHI for 40 units, because that's just how the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities inventory stuff. They give you credit for those 6 units for the whole complex, 40 units where 24 of those units are going to be market rate, but counted as affordable, believe it or not. But it's an incentivization the state puts out there. I think Lee Hartman was explaining it, that it was an attempt to get towns to build apartment complexes and reward them for it by giving them a higher count on it. So in the end, it's explained to town meeting members that, we're proposing 94 units of affordable housing, and we're going to get credit on SHI for 102. We can do a 30-year restriction, but it's explained to town meeting members that Plymouth Area Coalition is going to cooperate on any extensions on the 30-year. If we can put that out into the future, they're more than willing to do that. And also they'll agree to a reversal clause on the property, that if this entity, Plymouth Area Coalition, ceases to exist, the building reverts to the town of Plymouth to be sold, and the proceeds only be used for affordable housing. So it's to protect our original investment. they've agreed to stipulation, so we're protecting the money that we put into this project in terms of the length of restriction. Again, we're getting a 30-year restriction. We could ask for an extended in the future, but as a safety net, this is something that we actually did. So that's what we're at. They're willing to give this to us.
John.
Bill, so back to the industrial park. So 24 market rate. I'm sorry, Vale. 24 market rate. Right?
Well, it would be 30 market. Excuse me, 24, correct.
24 and 6 is 30.
Let me get the math again. So there's 40 units over there. They had to do 4 affordable to qualify.
Meet the requirements.
Yeah, to meet the inclusionary. So the planning board had that stipulation of 4. He's gonna do 6. There'll be 10 affordable. And we'll get, our 6 trigger this SHI where we get all 40.
So overall, there are 40 units.
Yes.
And that count doesn't stop at any time frame, right?
No.
At 30 years, it reverts back, and it reverts back to less than 30. Correct?
Not that.
30 years from now, I'm gonna ask the question. Right now, we're gonna get credit for how many? With the state's deal, you said counts for 40?
40.
Yeah.
So 30 years from now, because it's only a 30-year stipulation, you lose the 40 on the count.
The 30 is at 26, excuse me, the 30 is at 54 industrial park, the 30-year housing restriction, but not at 32 Court Street.
Right.
But that, you bring up a good question, and I'm gonna ask that question to make sure that it's more than 30 years, because we'll get a deed restriction, I know locally here in perpetuity, but going back to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, you guys are keeping this SHI count. Do you count that forever, or do you stop counting those?
After 30 years, you lose the market rate count.
It brings up a question that we gotta get verified. I think I know what the answer is, and I think they're covered for eternity. We might even know the answer.
We'll assume.
Yeah, so, okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
The comments that you made about the coalition. the
In the area
housing-
coalition, yeah.
Yeah, them willing to extend beyond the 30 years and or if the property ever sold after the 30 years, that the proceeds would be used for affordable housing by the town.
So, no.
Is that gonna go in the grant agreement? Like what are?
So what we would, so the idea is that if for some reason the Plymouth Area Coalition ceased to exist,
Mhm.
the building would revert to the town of Plymouth for sale and the proceeds used for affordable housing in the future. I don't know if anybody remembers the Fragment Society had a little building and that organization ceased to exist. So what happened was that the money had to be, the building had to be sold and given to a housing. So this is.
So that language would go in the grant agreement with the coalition.
Yeah, it would go in, it would probably be a notation also. You would not only have it in the grant agreement, but you'd probably notate it in the deed. So that in the future, if anybody went to sell the property, they're like, wait a second, who's selling this property? What happened to this property? So basically, if the property gets sold in the future, or if this entity dissolves in the future, the town would get notice to know that this is happening. So people won't forget. It's kind of a canary in the coal mine scenario. 32 Court Street, you touched on it, is 40 units. We're getting credit for all 40 under SHI. That article is going fairly well. There doesn't seem to be any controversy in that article. We've already done a project with the developer, Mr. Vale, on State Road and out on Carver Road. So town meeting members seem to be understanding and seeing a similarity. So that one does not require a 2/3 vote. The other one, 16A, will require a 2/3 vote. The reason why 16B doesn't is when you're using available funds at $960,000, so that we're good on that. Redbrook 16C is going well. there was a few places where there were some opposition, but the opposition has kind of melted away in light of them moving the building to another location. That has really resolved the neighborhood issues. There were some people that were going around to caucuses voicing concern, but I haven't seen them at the last couple of caucuses. So people are asking very, important questions. The Grantham Group is doing a great job explaining their financial partners and what they bring to the table. And Dan with the Red Book has been doing a good job. I basically, introduce the article, touch on the things that the committee has done today, and then turn it over to Dan and Grantham to present the article. So there's nothing lost in translation. So that is 16C. 16D, same thing, presenting that article, focusing on David's larger efforts in Jenny Pond. There's a footbridge, there's dredging, there's the building of this new trail over by the Huntley Lane property that we purchased a few years back called Dark Orchard. So David is involved in that along with the bypass. We're focusing these funds on improving the access from the Main Street Extension Bridge at Brewster Gardens up to Jenny Pond, an area that hasn't been dealt with for 60 years in terms of lighting and ADA compliance and access. So David is looking at other funding sources, but he's applying for the full amount. And when you said earlier then that there'd be some short-term borrowing, you thought that might stop when for Jenny Pond and for what aspect of the project?
The project that David got approved for from CPC like a couple of years ago.
For the bridge and dredging.
Yeah, it has something to do with like engineering.
Yeah.
It's a small contract that is starting right now.
Right.
You'd have to ask David like the particulars.
Right. Yeah.
But I called him because I didn't think anything was starting yet.
Yeah.
So.
Question, do we do the minutes?
The minutes are down.
The minutes are at the beginning.
Oh, the minutes are at the beginning, yes.
Good idea. I'm partial to those. Chelsea's taking over now.
Can we come back to the minutes when we're down?
That's fine. Just
Yeah.
wanted to let you
I
know
was
that.
looking
I
at
was
it.
at the
Say the
beginning
same
and we didn't do the minutes.
I looked up there and I was like 48 hours, where are the minutes? I go, oh, they must be down the bottom. Okay, so David's article is going well. Everybody understands that this is a culmination of nearly 23, 24 years of work in the CPC and David looking for grants, taking down dams, buying up land, restoring the town brook. So this is kind of a culmination of that, trying to, now that we've been buying up this land, now that we've been taking down these dams, now that we've been improving this waterway, now it's time to address the pedestrian access and the residential access to this area to make it a little bit better experience in terms of hiking around Jenny Pond, hiking up from the waterfront. So people seems to be moving on. And then again, 16E.
Bill, back to
Yeah.
David's. So these are heading into town meeting. I just want to make sure, I think you just used the term of nothing lost in translation. So I'm just hoping that once we get to town meeting, especially with Gould, Giovanetti, and Gorsica, that, you get up to the microphone, there's a tight, concise, accurate introduction, and then I would just suggest that, you hand it off to those three individuals.
So that's what's been going on at the caucuses. And I have been in contact with David Gould, who's deferred not to go to the caucuses. So I've been handling that at the caucuses. Rick Vale has deferred to me at the caucuses, saying that he's not going to go to the caucuses. He did go to the finance committee, the select board meeting, and he did go to the committee of precinct chairs. I did speak to both David and Rick tonight. Rick said that he preferred that I present on that article, that he's going to defer to me.
I didn't mention Rick.
And David Gould's going to be here tonight. So I've taken all the presentations into one PowerPoint. So the CPC has a PowerPoint presentation that's going to be presented tonight in a town meeting. And it basically, the committee opens up the article and then we turn it over to Sue Giovanetti, who has her slides.
Yeah.
And then when she's done, again, Rick Rick is telling me at town meeting, he prefers that I do 132 Court Street. So I'll go through those slides. And then when I get to 6C, I'll do exactly what I'm doing at the caucuses. I introduce the article with a couple of points of how we voted and what we voted for, and then move down to Dave. Dave, of course, is going to introduce Walter with Grantham, and those two will handle that section. Then the final one will be Dave Gould. He's going to take over and do his article, and then that completes the presentations. We're done at that point.
Right, so Veo aside, Giovanetti, Corsica, and Gould should be doing on town meeting floor the heavy lifting. So I would expect that 80 to 90% of what is being disseminated to the legislative branch is coming from those three individuals, because sometimes less is more.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I was saying, we're going to go into caucuses, and that's how they've been doing it.
Okay, good.
90% of the presentation is done by the board members.
That's perfect, thank you.
Oh, my God.
And no, we're not going back to the beginning. That's okay.
No. Just go to a caucus. This is basically what the caucus is. What we've been doing at the caucuses up to this point is basically, that's what's been going on. The only other thing I do at the caucus to help people is walk them through this briefing book, show them how the briefing book works, the different sections. By the way, you guys should have a copy of this.
Oh, is that the book? Good,
Thank you, sir.
nice.
You have all this material in the form
Yeah.
of, you have all this material in the form of applications. But what I do with the applications is I organize them around the book. You can see on the first page is the green page, and inside is the index page of all the different articles. Each
Nice.
article is a section. Section A, 16A. Every section is in yellow. It's all color coordinated. So if you look on page 1, that's 16A. It's yellow. That's the section. Blue is the memo that we provide to the town and the board of selectmen on the warrant. That's the article language, Article 16A, with our recommendation, summary and intent. And then anything else that the committee, anything else the applicant gave us goes into this book. So everything that you received for Article 16A, the Plymouth Area Coalition, I take a copy of that application and I put it in the book so that you can see right there in page 1, actually from page 3 to 36, you'll see that is the first article right there. And then that is replicated throughout the book. The only thing at the end is a special town meeting section that we have there that outlines a memo from Lynn Barrett's office on page 125, and then it shows each of those borrowing reductions.
Very nice.
But if you go a little further in the front of that, you'll actually see 60 on page 118. You'll see 16G, section G, which is Article 16G, which is our estimated, it's our annual account set aside article with our vote and rationale. And then on page 120, you'll actually see our budget, how much money we have, how much money we're spending, what the expectations are for the next fiscal year, what the recommendations of the finance department is found on the memo. There's a memo on page 122, which Lynn provided to the committee, which outlines what monies that she would like to see dedicated to what projects. So all that borrowing authorization is outlined there. And then the last section is H, is the special town meeting articles that you can see, and there's a memo from Lynn there.
On page 122, for Article 16G, your account set asides and budget setup. The only thing that's happening is the budget and the debt service. Because all the set asides were actually spending. There's no set aside.
Sorry, no set asides, it's all spending. Anybody else get that?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's the book. And that's what we've been, was mailed to all the town meeting members. And I did get some phone calls from people asking about how the book works. Some new town meeting members, kind of interesting. They called and had questions about the book. but most people understood what they were giving into it. I explained to people at the caucuses, this is just to complement the finance committee's work. The finance committee provides material, but this is just kind of us compiling it on our own. So that was, old business and new business. We have nothing new to report on open space. There's this outstanding application called Roxy Cahoon, Massacomcon 2. That application, the owner has done the appraisal, he has a number, he's got 10 acres, it's right on Great Herring Pond. We're waiting to hear what his plans are in terms of how does he want to proceed. He's looking at his financial situation. He's trying to see if he can put together a bargain sale at some capacity. So we could be seeing some sort of news from that applicant. There's another application, Black Cat Road 3.
That's still open.
Well, that was we voted on that to send it to town meeting, but the applicant wanted to wait and hold on it, so it's on hold still, but it's probably going to see a future town meeting at some point, because we've already voted to send it to town meeting, but we're just waiting to hear from the owner on that. Dave Gould is spearheading that. He's doing the heavy lifting on that one. Recreational St. Catherine's Park. Proposing to send a letter to them because did you want to go over what you researched on that? Sure. So Chelsea was looking into the deed with town council and others.
Good.
So they have some restrictions that have expired. They had like a 5-year restriction, and if they ended up selling the property within that time, that's gone away already. What persists, it's restricted to open space uses consistent with a park. The parking that's there is restricted. It has a time limit. It can't be expanded. You can't put up any permanent structures, no bathrooms, no anything, only temporary if you did something for an event. Yeah, that's it. The only thing that was movable in the restrictions was you could increase the time restriction on the park.
If I may, again, you look at the Management Master Plan, Management Village Center Steering Committee, parking is a requirement for parks and et cetera. We had this discussion when I was the chair.
Nice.
I represented the planning board as a representative of the planning board. It went through the whole Village Master Center plan. This came up back then. And I brought up the fact we just passed the master plan 2 weeks ago that requires parking for any type of parks. And there is no parking for this park without some type of restrictions that are involved with the deed, et cetera. So this just does not work.
There's parking, there's a little roadway.
There's
I parked there.
limited adjacent parking in terms of what the deed says, at least I'm not familiar with the property.
This was turned down and voted down by the Management Village Steering Committee when it was discussed originally.
So the sequence of events, the Diocese of Boston was going to sell this property along with the property down on Bourne Road. They had 2 properties, one next to Indian Brook, one there. They were selling it. And the only overtures that this committee made at that time was to Barry Bellagio and the rec department, saying that, gee, wouldn't it be interesting to acquire this property? It has a building on it that could have after-school programming. It could, the parking lot could serve as parking for this location. So we did engage a department on the possibilities of what was being offered out there. We also did have some overtures with the rate agent that represented the property in Indian Brook next to the school. We passed that on to the school department, thinking they might have an interest in inquiring that because it abutted the school. I don't know what happened. I think that went to residential development, that piece next to Indian Brook. But what we learned, though, was that a private landowner on Taylor Ave on White Horse Beach, hearing that there might be an interest in expanding parking to this location, bought the property and converted it into a park with specific language in the deed that no parking be put there other than the parking to support I think 4 or 5 parking spaces for the little tiny park. So it was denuded as a parking lot, as everybody remembers it as a kid. It was a parking lot that could park 100 cars, but now that had gone away. They offered this piece of land to the town. The town declined it. The Merrimack Village Steering Committee declined it. Board of Selectmen declined it. And then that's when the Merrimack Foundation, Science House Foundation, took it. They accepted it with an endowment to take care of it.
For
So
99 years.
Which the endowment, I believe, is now void because there isn't any funds in the endowment, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know what the balance is. I have no idea what the
But you
balance
should
is.
be purchasing a piece of property that you can't park and the public can't really get to other than the people that live directly around this park, which was taken care of by a former planning board member and his landscape company,
Right.
right?
And
And that's
Randy,
how it was brought into
Yeah.
the shape that it was in back
I
then.
think he
I don't know
designed
what
it.
shape it is currently because I haven't been by there.
yeah, he did
So when-
design.
And so this is not a good purchase.
Absolutely. When the private person bought the land, tore down the chapel and built this park, I think it was that landscaper
Yeah,
who designed it and planted
he
it
brought
and
trees
maintained it.
in.
Maintained it.
But when he maintained it up until it was gifted to the Science House Foundation, they have it now. The Sun, what do they call it?
Well,
Yeah,
Science House Foundation has it now, or
Yeah.
they can probably sell it with the building or
And that's who's
whatever the process
and
is
they-
going on right now with the Science House.
Yeah.
So
So,
Sim's house, whichever way you want to pronounce it.
Signs.
so, so the building, there's no building there now on the location, obviously. But I guess the most important thing is that obviously this application to us is not really a fundable thing. I don't think there's the resolve of the committee to do anything in terms of funding it. By the way, they're offering us development rights that they don't have.
You can't do, yeah.
They can't, I mean, so, you know, and I think that,
They're offering the town development
and I
rights
think
on
it's
a
clear that I
park.
don't think that we even want to buy the land
No,
as a town and taking, assume the cost of maintaining that after the go through. Oh, Betty, go ahead.
I was just gonna clarify what you actually just said. So they want us to buy the rights to something that they can't even do. Is
Correct.
that basically what this whole thing is about?
yeah,
So, okay, just to clarify. Thank you.
Now, I was going to go back to them with a letter saying that the committee has done some title work, that you don't have development rights to sell, and this committee is not interested in acquiring either the development rights or the fee simple interest.
yes,
That makes
thanks for the
sense,
gumbo
And that
making,
doesn't
but
mean the
no,
master plan or the village center.
no.
Did you hear that, Betty?
No, say that again.
That we should send a letter to the applicant saying that we looked into the title and we found that the title does not have any development rights that you can sell. It can't be developed. It is a park, and the town at this time is not interested in acquiring.
We have no interest.
Yeah.
Of your development rights or your fee simple right interest.
Right,
Meaning that
Right.
the fee simple would be them just turning it around and saying, does the town want to buy this park? And I don't think that there is a resolve right now on this committee or in the community to acquire this maintenance park issue at this location.
I think if
and
we
I-
had a lot of money,
Well, if we could do what we wanted there, I'd
That's
go down
different.
that road, we can't.
And
Yeah, that's
just
a-
to be sure that before we send that letter, that it goes, Chelsea, brings it to town council and make sure we've dotted all our i's and crossed our t's.
good, I'm glad. we're
I'll
able
draft,
to-
draft something and send it to Chelsea, and Chelsea can send it to council, and we can all see it. But what John just said should be part of the letter where we're saying something to the effect that, you know, this property comes with restrictions. and the town doesn't want to accept those restrictions. You know, I think that's important to know. Also.
Are there-
Selling us the fee simple interest with these restrictions is something that the town at this time would be concerned with. Does that make sense to anyone? Yeah. Okay, all right, so we'll draft a letter, send it to council, send it to the committee.
Don't get too wordy,
No words,
just,
short.
yeah, short and
Well,
sweet.
I'll send my, I know when you're trying to communicate with a lawyer, you tell them what you're thinking, and then they cut it down to what they know.
Are you picking on lawyers now?
Yeah, who doesn't?
No, in my experience with lawyers, you just tell them everything you're thinking, and they pick through it and find out what they can and cannot say based on that.
Yeah.
That's their job to sort it out. All right. The lighthouse, I'm gonna take this off because I got a call from these people. They say they were gonna forward us an application. There's an entity that is moving to ask the General Service Administration for the land, the lighthouse in the Gurnett, the lighthouse at the Gurnett and the land with it. They've applied for it. They'll probably most likely get it. They were calling us, contacting the committee saying that they wanted to know where the application was because they wanted to file an application to do work out there on the property.
No.
And I have not received anything to date. So that's just I think the resolve is that we're not looking to maintain someone else's operation. There is a very historical structure out there.
No, but we can't even go out there.
Yeah, I know, this should be on
So-
the agenda. Like shut down.
7.8 acres, and we have this historic lighthouse. So there is, I mean, we're looking for access. It's the same discussion we just had with this Pat Park and Manaman. And, you know, so,
Do you
I mean,
think
Bill,
they'd
you've always
allow-
said this, whether it's Pilgrim Hall or the Spire or the Art Center. So what are we getting? They want us to make a contribution to, I guess, some sort of investment or modernization of this lighthouse.
Yeah,
So what is
If
the?
they give
well, if
us
they came to us with an
access
application looking for money, we would, you know.
to the beach, is there a beach there?
I know,
No.
there's a large cliff.
So.
Maybe down to the beach, but-
There's
There's a lot of rocks.
I think what we would be looking for is access from dawn to dusk, like any place that we're.
Public access, if you're gonna spend money. you
Not
public
bad.
They were
access.
clear. I did a site visit with Gould and DZ, and they
Yeah.
were clear that they were going this alone because they wanted to prevent access.
Prevent-
So they won't give it to us.
They communicated that to us. So this is your leverage point. I don't have a problem. Fill out the application. Then you're gonna have the discussion, okay?
We want the
We have
beaches.
we have to do our due diligence as a community
Right.
committee, because it's a historical structure out there, there's land out there, there's a group that's getting
You get
acquired.
And they put in
application,
an
you go to the planning board,
application.
You get an application for proposal, you can't say, I'm not gonna hear it.
Right.
You hear the application.
So I'm just telling the community that we should expect something, but.
That
nothing
lighthouse
has
is gonna be in the water in a few
Yeah.
years.
Kate Jones.
I'm,
Oh, did someone have their hand up? Is that Karen? Did you want to say something? Oh,
No.
you're muted.
Scratching my nose.
All right. Okay, so that was, we have, go over the fall town meeting articles. There's been some progress on the grants are signed. Chelsea can walk us through that. I did get late notice today that David Gould says that the buildings are coming down April 6th or 7th, I believe. The buildings at Hedges Pond, but did you want to walk us through that stuff that you told me earlier?
Sure. So I have all 4 signed grant agreements in the back of your packet. I'm going in order here, but. Let's see, so we have the Pilgrim Hall Museum one, I have the PO created for this, and then, Pilgrim Hall. Is Pilgrim Hall the only one that hasn't sent an invoice yet?
It might be the Center for the Arts.
The Center for the Arts has sent an invoice for $74,500. Habitat for Humanities requested the $60,000, and then Old Russell Library has requested the first dispersion of $133,000.
So each of these grant agreements have like scheduled payments, you know, and so every payment would be in accordance with the grant agreement. And some of the grant agreements, Bill, require us.
Oh, that's right,
You know, an appointee of the
Yeah.
CPC committee, which I think you guys are gonna deal with that.
Right.
To sort of understand how the projects are going along and that kind of thing. But there are milestones and payment requests that would happen after those milestones.
Okay. All right, so we have we have our grant agreement, so they're all done and signed. That's good. That takes care of it, other than, they're all signed, on that.
Invoices.
And then, just wanted to check on a couple of other things before we go to, the finance department invoices. Yeah, let's go right to finance department invoices. That's what's up. Go ahead. Yeah, so you have in front of you, it's the signature page. Does
Yeah,
everybody
it's
have-
just that one.
Okay, so we have a signature page for expenses. Now Walsh Steel and Iron Works is a bill for $5,600. That was the gate that we put at Rocky Hill Road.
Oh, it's up?
Wow,
Yeah, it's already up.
Oh, I haven't
Wow.
seen
Pretty good.
So we approved that, the bill came in, so if someone wants to take a motion to pay that.
it. Hey,
Karen gave me a motion to pay the gate. Do I have a second from anybody?
Yeah, John.
Bill, John, is saying yes. Karen, Alan, do you vote to?
Yes.
Alan, roll call. Karen?
yes.
Bill? Yes. Tim?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And Bill, John Mahoney?
Yes.
Karen Edwards?
Yes.
Betty Cavaco? Okay, good. Thank you. Did Betty say anything?
Yeah, she said yes.
All right, so we have New England Printing and Graphics, there was $70, a bill that we had done. So we have, this was in association with,
Those were the reports that they're spending, the $70.
yeah, this was for town meeting printing. So do we have a vote for the $70? Alan?
Yes.
First,
Yes.
Karen, do we have a second?
Yes.
Both of you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Got a first from Alan, a second from Betty. Karen Bukes.
Yeah.
And then Bill.
Yes.
Yes, Tim.
Yes.
John? Yes. Betty?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Okay, why don't I do this? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more bills, and I want to do them in a group. So why don't we just, why don't I just,
Was there a list of those somewhere?
yeah, I don't have one to pass out.
And I'm looking for it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. We only have one.
Keep looking, it's in there somewhere.
All right,
Gone through
no.
this thing 3 times. one of
Yeah,
those go back.
all right.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's clear up.
Sorry, I should have made a copy of that. All right, so this is, we have $60,000 for Indian Ave. That is a project that we're working on, affordable housing with Habitat for Humanity, $60,000. Pilgrim Fence, which is $5,925.
What's the Habitat for Humanity?
That's an article that we did, 47
Yeah, that was
Indian Ave.
the veterans stuff down in like South.
So fall town meeting, 2023, we sent an article to town meeting for Habitat for Humanity to build
I think like 3 houses or something.
one unit at 47 Indian Avenue.
Amy Belmore out of Kingston.
Gotcha.
Okay. Then there was Pilgrim Fence. This was a fence for Rocky Hill and Rocky Pond. And that's $5,925. And then I have Powderhorn Press. This is the printing that we had done for this town meeting. So this book here was $3,694.76. The postage to send it out was $1,843.56. I have a bill for $250 for Ross Clock Service. So in the courtroom here, we've got 2 things going on in this courtroom. One, we have a Howard clock up on the wall that needs a little repair done to its arm. It's a little thing that you can push to get the pendulum working behind the marble.
Okay,
So that needs to be fixed. In the back of the room, there's another clock It is a clock that Malcolm McGregor was able, when you go ahead and you have to put this on the slide. This is the presentation for the CBC. Sorry, so the clock in there, there's a clock there that Malcolm McGregor in 1978-79, he was able to secure it out of the headquarters of the Cordage Rope Factory. He got this clock, he secured it, he restored it, he ran it in his house for 30 years, 30, 40 years, and then he donated it to the town of Plymouth. So we took the clock and we took the contents of the clock, sent it over to Abington to this guy who fixes clocks. Now, if you ever had a chance to see this clock, he's got a big barn behind his house and you go in, he's got clocks, he's got phones, he's got
Like a
radios.
movie.
He's kind of like the guy from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
This is at Malcolm's house? At Malcolm's house?
Not Malcolm's house. Malcolm gave us the clock. We found this guy in Abington a few years
Oh,
back. He was an amazing
Oh.
clock guy. And he actually takes care of the customs tower clock. You know, that clock in
Yeah.
Boston, that's his job. He actually has arms up in the bottom.
Who does the winding and the one in the courtroom?
So, I wind it.
You're the only one that winds it?
Other people can wind it. It can be wound.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Seems to be
You're hired.
not wound.
It's broken.
Listen, I work full-time, 50 to 60 hours a week. I won't be winding any clocks here at town hall.
It's, the arm is broken. The thing is broken.
I'm retired.
So it's not running right now. It hasn't been running for some time because the little kickstart is gone. So we can't start it. So he's planning to come down here on the 2nd of April. He's going to be meeting with an electrician here at the town. I've coordinated this with Kevin Canty and the town manager. They're going to determine what wall that Malcolm's clock is going to go on in the Great Hall. They're going to choose a spot, choose electricity. Ross is going to fix the clock and we're going to put it up in there, and there's going to be the old.
So there's actually gonna be a clock in that room.
There'll be a clock in the clock in that room.
Wow.
It's from about the 1880s.
When do you think that's gonna?
It was in the boss's
Like
office
May?
at the Cottage.
Gonna be a clock?
April 2nd is when they're gonna come and, start working on it. I don't know how long after April 2nd it will take for them to get this arm fixed and that clock working. There's some clock
Oh,
working.
that's a talent.
Yeah,
So-
electrify a clock that winds up.
So Ross Hofstrafer, he's gonna be, there's an invoice for $250 for his first site visit, and then he'll be back on the 2nd of April for a second site visit with the town electrician. They're using the town electrician to determine where this clock's gonna go. They're also working with the facility, the new town facilities manager.
Oh, we have
Buildings
one,
facilities
finally?
So, that's a 250. Black Cat Water Course appraisal, that's 5,500. We had a, appraisal done out on Black Cat Road. 10 Oak Street, the money that's going over there, they're starting work over there on Oak Street on the affordable units. $133,534 is being conveyed for that project to build the affordable units at Oak Street. And the Old Russell Library, which is the Center for the Arts, they received $74,500 as part of these grant agreements that are being signed. So, someone would take a motion to.
Motion, pay for it.
We have a
Second.
first from Karen, a second from Betty. Alan,
Yes.
Karen? Bill?
Yes.
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
and John Mahoney,
Yes.
and Karen Edwards,
Karen Edwards, yes.
and Betty
Betty,
Devine.
yes.
Okay, so we're all going to do bills.
I need to pass this on to sign.
Oh, yeah, so I'd like to pass this around for everybody to sign. In this pen, right on there. And
Excuse
you
me,
can sign
Bill?
this. Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, do I need to come by town hall at some point and sign some of these documents or not?
No, there's a majority here.
there's a majority here tonight to sign, so you're
Okay.
good.
All right,
If we
thank you.
didn't have a majority, we'd have you come in.
Yeah, I'm only
All right,
home
thank you.
Mondays and Tuesdays, so.
Anything else from the finance department right now?
There's a year-to-date report in there that I'll probably give you guys once a month, so
This
you
one
can
here?
see balances.
See that?
Yeah,
But
I
there's
saw that.
nothing new to report on there from the last one that went over.
So near the end, I do have something new.
What was that?
I do have something new when we get to, I
Okay,
may ask a question.
me too. Okay, so we're at, public comment. There are no more public comment.
Do we do the minutes? Should we do the minutes?
Oh, we were gonna do the minutes, so everyone saw the minutes that went around?
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
Fantastic job, Chelsea. We're back in the 21st century after 24 years. We're in the 21st century. That looks really good.
I think it's spelled wrong.
Do we have a motion to pass
No,
them?
really.
We got a name spelled wrong.
We need to spell
So
it
we got
correct.
Alan with the first,
Yeah.
maybe a second?
No, we're doing
Both
both of
sets of
these.
minutes or one set of minutes?
Both.
One of them's gonna abstain and one I was here.
Okay, you want to take them separately? We will.
yeah.
For the first minutes of
The January 25th.
January 25th,
So moved,
all those, roll call, Alan,
Yes.
yes.
Karen,
Yes,
Bill,
if my name is changed.
Abstain,
Him, you're gonna change the name?
Yep.
Got that?
abstain.
Change the name.
Abstain on the 25th?
Do you have the correct spelling? Do you know, did he tell you the,
I can fix it.
do you know what it is?
I don't.
Yeah, I'm used
Bill,
to it.
Bill.
too.
Tell
He
him the
spells
spelling.
it
FOR.
WINNER.
FORNA.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Sorry,
too.
okay. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. Won't be the first time, won't be the last.
Okay, so the second minutes are for
This is for
Sorry.
February 15th.
February 15th?
Chelsea's first minutes, again, fantastic format.
Move them.
Boom, do I have a second?
Second,
We have a second, Alan?
Yes.
yes.
Karen Hughes, Bill
Yes.
Panchari, Tim
Yes.
Grandy, John Mahoney.
Yes.
Karen Edwards,
Yes.
Betty Kabaka.
Yes.
Okay, we have approved minutes. Any old and new business? Tim Grandy?
Yes, I just want, doesn't have to happen immediately, but I'd be very interesting on a list of 351 communities, exactly where Plymouth falls as far as open space land rights. Do we fall eighth? Do we
Percent?
fall 351st?
You mean
Where do we
percentage
fall?
of the town? What are the
We know
variables?
all
Hang
351
on,
communities.
question to the chair. Let's listen to
I'm
Tim.
asking
Wait,
the
Tim's
question,
telling-
where does Plymouth fall for acreage? Let's talk about acreage of land that's in conservation in comparison to the other 350 communities in the state of Massachusetts.
Well, with the
Percentage
large-
wise.
Okay, so not just CPC acquisitions, but all land under conservation.
That is correct.
As a ratio or percentage of the overall acreage.
That is
Yes.
correct.
What about open spaces?
That's what he means.
With, you can do it with and without the state forest, as far as I'm concerned.
What about land that's just not
Alan,
developed?
Alan, just sort of everything through the chair, the questions to Tim. So Tim is asking that we,
Officially conserved.
Tim is, can you just say it again? Because I was getting distracted, multiple conversations. Just do it
My
again.
question is.
Yep.
If we can please provide, this committee, doesn't have to overnight or next week but somebody needs to do a tabulation in where does the town of Plymouth, amongst all the 351 communities, based on all conserved open space.
Okay,
And conservation and open space.
okay,
Where does the town rate?
Okay.
As far as the acreage is concerned, in the state of Massachusetts.
Got
If
it.
we are fifth, if we are 300th,
Got it.
let's find out where we
So-
stand as far as what we're doing, as far as conservation of land is concerned, based on the rest of the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
and Karen,
Maybe
what you're saying-
might be
Karen, I think Karen's gonna say what I'm gonna say, but what I was gonna say is that I know the Open Space Committee has been working on this question for some time with Patrick Farr. Patrick Farr has been recently in contact with me asking about CPC lands in conservation. So what I'll defer to Karen on this.
So along with my question, which has a follow-up.
Yeah.
Over how long the CPC has been in place? How much funds has been spent on open space, affordable housing, historic preservation over the time
Broken
frame?
down.
No, we can do
Broken
that.
down
Yeah.
in cost
Yeah.
as far as what has been expended versus what we received. So that when people ask me the question, how much have we spent on affordable housing? What percentage have we spent on the affordable housing? What percentage have we spent on open space?
Recreation.
Recreation, historical preservation.
Right.
It's important to be able to answer that question.
That's a good.
Okay, good.
Okay, what I contribute that,
I'm gonna let you speak. Go ahead, Karen, go ahead.
Okay. The Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners will have some data for some of your answers there. So I'll be able to call them and confer with them in regard to some of the answers that you want. And I think from what I understand from my part is that, you know, how the acreage of Plymouth, you know, how much, what is the percentage of conservation land put aside today compared to other towns, you know, on a ratio basis, because we're the largest, you know, section of the entire.
So you can take the number of 104 square acres, or whatever the case may be, and compare it to a town or a city that has 30 acres, and what their conservation and open space is, if they're at 10% and we're at 15.
Yeah.
So
So I'll get
a lot of information to gather, but I think it's important information to have.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
I think that the Open Space Committee has been playing with this question. And I know that Patrick Farrar has been playing with this question. Susan, Karen Andrews just indicated another organization that's a resource, but I think that this question's been asked enough around town that we should kind of team up with Patrick and the Open Space Committee to get that answer. What is the percentage? And then separate to that, the second question, which we can get pretty quickly, in that how much money have we spent in open space historical?
From the inception of when it was approved by the council.
2002. So two questions. Now, Alan, you had to hear that.
I just was, you already clarified it, Tim. I wanted to make sure that did not include open space. Suppose that 1,000 acres is not developed. It's not under conservation.
If it's not in conservation, then you're talking about 1,000 acres down in South Plymouth. That's tax title.
No, I'm not talking about that. I was just talking
about the ratio.
No, I was just talking about hypothetical. Suppose I have a bunch of land. It's not under conservation, but it's all trees. You're not including that.
The definition of open space is open space and conservation. Utilize that definition, come up with your number.
We want a conservation. This is constricted with land with conservation restrictions.
Correct.
Not golf courses, playgrounds.
Exactly.
Things held in chapter 97.
Where do we fall in relationship to the other 350 communities? Using the same analogy that you just said.
Bill?
So a question for you then. When someone comes in front of the planning board with a subdivision, and they're gonna develop 40% of it, and they have 60% open space, is that
Well,
count?
that may go into a conservation restriction.
Only if it gets a conservation restriction, and they don't.
Yes.
Oh,
You know, the highest form of protection for a piece of land is a conservation restriction. Sometimes.
Thank you, Alan.
You know, let's say Ponds of Plymouth once came into town and said, okay, we're gonna build this Ponds of Plymouth. This is gonna be open space. This is gonna be a playground. These are where the houses are going.
Expand it to the open space. That's not a conservation restriction of the way to take it. But the comparison needs to be done. with the
Right.
Same parameters, right?
So I was drawing on,
thank
when
you.
you said that about people coming in and, Alan,
You saying I got that, bro?
I got it from the restaurant around the corner. Okay.
So basically, Bill, when someone comes into the town and starts going through the permitting process, and during that permitting process, they say, we're gonna put this land in open space. That is something that they do, and it's identified open space. Eventually, the developer leaves the property, it's turned over to the association controls the land. There's still taxes due on that open space. Sometimes they don't pay that taxes, it ends up a tax title.
Right.
Sometimes in another example, I've seen where the Ponds of Plymouth came in and said, we want to build this huge subdivision, and they did. This would be our ballpark, this would be our open space. But there was a very sensitive piece of land by Little Herring Pond that had been seen and recognized as something that the original developer had agreed to put into open space.
Right.
But as that developer went bankrupt and other developers came in and bought and purchased the property, eventually someone came in and said, this has never been identified with a restriction. I'm gonna go put a subdivision in. And they went ahead and did that. So just because something says it has open space, you gotta really find out, does it have the ultimate form of protection? And that's a conservation restriction. And putting the conservation restriction on a piece of land requires the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to get involved, the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. Agreement has to be drawn up between the owner of the land and a conservation group. All the pieces of land that we buy with CPA, they're required by law to have a CR. So over the years, we've had to put CRs on land. But what we're gonna try to do is focus on protected land, and defining what that means.
So if we're falling behind, then we need to pick up the pace.
Right.
That's my point.
Yep, John,
What is the deadline for someone to submit an application to this committee to be considered for a fall town meeting?
very good question, because I was thinking about this in the last couple of weeks. We had a deadline first week, we had December 4th as our deadline. We had to have our articles in by December 22nd or 21st. I'm proposing that if town meeting, if the warrant opens on August 11th, that we should not be looking at July 11th, but June 11th as the deadline. John. Now, the reason why I'd like to move this thing up to 8 weeks is because we need to get the applications in much earlier, see them, and have a series of meetings with the applicant to see if there's anything we can do to improve the application before it goes to town meeting, rather than being under the gun that night to make a decision.
So 2 months before.
I'm saying, yeah.
I think that's smart.
So I'd like to move it up 2 months. John,
June 11th, give or take,
yeah, I'm gonna
for
take it.
applications to be in.
So what we're gonna do is take the CPC application, change it on its deadline, and release it in the next couple of weeks, and say, here's the CPA application for the fall town meeting. You need to get your stuff in by June 11th.
That's good. That gives time.
So email it around, send it around, but all we have to do is change that on the application. So that was, hopefully that would give us, so when we get an application, we have more time to deliberate. I wanted to draw your attention, this weekend, we have 2 open houses, one at 54 Industrial Park Road with the Plymouth Area Coalition. They'll be hosting an open house. You go over there from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and check out their property. So that will be open to people to see. There'll be plans there to look at. And then later that day, from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. down at Red Brook, Article 16C, the Grantham Group and Red Brook will be hosting an open house. People can come, look at the lot, stare at it. So they'll be giving tours, there'll be plans there. So there's 2 open houses for both those properties.
I just
Yeah, go ahead.
I just thought of something. John, any movement on signs?
Can we go back into new business on that?
Yeah.
I mean, let me just finish up that and we'll end it with that.
Oh, I thought we were on.
No, I just wanted to, just look in your packets that Chelsea provided, you have your 54 Industrial Park Road. This is a PowerPoint that was presented that she gave to us. Obviously, you have the changes that Red Brook made in the PowerPoint that Red Brook is using in their slideshow. I think we've covered everything. The only thing that I think everybody has a copy of, Chelsea, do you have that?
Yes.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. It just shows the surcharge. John Buckley, Registry of Deeds, is releasing how much money is coming in per town in the county. So that's kind of an interesting read.
Yeah.
Karen, other initial business?
Yes, the question on the signs, what's the progress? Anything?
I brought this up with the town manager. I needed a few seconds to think about it, Karen. A few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, but remarkably, the last update I got is in discussions with a local nonprofit.
Oh,
They are progressing in a positive manner, but if they get to the point where it looks like something might happen, then we can't hand it to that nonprofit. You have to put the RFP out again.
oh, you do?
Yeah, you have to put that out again. And then that local nonprofit and anyone else can put in a proposal if they so choose, and then that'll.
Is this a new nonprofit we haven't heard about before?
No, it's a longstanding existing community nonprofit.
What is it?
Antiquarian Society.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's keep our fingers crossed. I think that, keep our fingers crossed. Any other new business or old business? Okay, nothing else?
No.
Do I have have a motion to
Motion to
adjourn?
adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Tim to adjourn, a second by John. Roll call, Alan Hamburg.
Yes,
Aaron
Ham.
Hughes.
Yeah.
Bill Forticali.
Yes.
Tim Randy.
Yes, sir.
John Mahoney.
Yes.
Karen Edwards.
Yes.
Betty Cavaco.
Yes.
And Alan Hamburg.
Yes. Twice.
Did I get it right?
Vote early and vote often.
All right, great. All right, see you guys later.